Sergey Viktorovich, good afternoon. Since the new administration came to power in the USA, several rounds of negotiations with the Americans have already taken place. How would you assess the outcomes of these contacts? Have you managed to formulate the key parameters of a future comprehensive agreement on Ukraine? And on which aspects of it is there already agreement between Washington and Moscow?
Well, the immediate answer is no. To the last question, agreeing on the key components of the settlement is not easy. They are being discussed. From our side, there are no secrets, to be honest. On June 14th last year, President Putin, speaking at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, very clearly outlined the principles on which such a long-term, reliable, fair agreement should be based, primarily considering the interests of the people, fully ensuring human rights, especially the rights of national minorities, in accordance with the UN Charter. All of this was laid out. And here, this is not some kind of bargaining position, because I emphasize once again, it is firmly based on the formulations of the United Nations Charter, on numerous conventions, and on the results of those referendums, on the results of the expressions of will by the people in the territories in question. Primarily, of course, this is Donbass, Novorossiya, the four regions that, after a nationwide expression of will, under international observation, transparently decided to return to their large motherland, the Russian Federation in this case. Well, as for the American side, we have already noted that unlike the Europeans, who, I can't find another word besides frenzy, who are literally consumed by frenzy, primarily the leadership of France, Britain, the Baltic countries, and some other countries of the European Union and NATO. Unlike them, the Trump administration is trying to delve into the problem and above all understand the root causes of the situation that arose as a result of the actions of Washington and Brussels, which brought the current regime to power by organizing and funding an unconstitutional coup in February 2014. Victoria Nuland, who was responsible for Ukraine in the State Department under the Obama administration, directly stated in the Senate during some hearings, see, defending the effectiveness of that administration's policy, we spent $5 billion and it brought results. A government friendly to us was established in Ukraine. The fact that this was a Nazi government, as it quickly became apparent, since the first instinct of that government in February 2014, when they violated the agreement made literally the night before, guaranteed by the Germans and the French, whom we will have to mention more than once today if we are to consider the ways of betraying agreements approved by the Security Council. They refused to form a government of national unity, which was supposed to prepare for early elections and announce to the entire square, to the entire Maidan, congratulate us, we have created a government of victors. That's when these processes already took on an irreversible character. Irreversible meaning that only military force could eventually drive this filth out of power. And the first instinct of those putschists who seized the presidential palace and administrative buildings in February 2014 was to announce that they would revoke the status of the Russian language. So the inherent characteristics, they are fully known. So President Trump has repeatedly said that a colossal mistake, which became a trigger, or one of the triggers for what is happening now in Ukraine, was the decision of the Biden administration to finally drag Ukraine into NATO. Before that, there were some promises, but this time, when Biden came to power, they started to pursue this very closely. So this understanding of one of the main root causes has been publicly acknowledged by President Trump more than once. And when we were at a meeting with Secretary of State Rubio, and Yuri Ushakov was also in our delegation, and on their side was National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. We talked then about the second main root cause, that this Nazi regime, represented by Zelensky and his associates, has taken a course towards the extermination of everything Russian. They physically killed many well-known people, including journalists and public figures who advocated for the need to preserve Russian culture in a country that was decisively created by Russians. And for centuries, the Russians not only helped to develop, but actually developed building cities, like Odessa and many other ports, roads, factories, and plants. These people were physically exterminated and legally. If we consider the current state of Ukrainian legislation, everything Russian has been eradicated by a series of laws that were passed. There are about a dozen of them. They began to be adopted long before we made the decision about the inevitability of starting the special military operation. And this understanding is also evident in the Trump administration, specifically Steve Witkoff publicly mentioned in an interview, I believe, with Tucker Carlson, that these territories are inhabited by people who held referendums, who expressed their desire to be part of the Russian Federation. And this cannot be ignored.